Okay, we are live, and we're going to turn it over to Jared Frank from ALSD.
Good afternoon, ALSD, or good morning, I guess, depending on where you're in front of a computer. Thanks for the introduction, Max. I am Jared Frank, publisher and editorial director for the ALSD. I want to welcome you to our latest webinar on the topic of AV and suites and clubs. First of all, many thanks to our good friends at AVIXA for once again collaborating on great content and the areas of technology and audio-visual enhancements. We're going to be applying those elements in this iteration to the premium levels, and certainly know that to be a topic that's top of mind for many of our members right now. Quick anecdote, a group of us was in Nashville earlier this month visiting all the venues in that market, and among the many things that stood out was the Lexus Lounge and two bunker suites that they have at Bridgestone Arena and their connection to this topic. One minute they look like a nightclub for entertainment and push a button or two and they transform into a conference center for giving presentations. So much of this functionality is a direct result of those audio visual overlays. So, it needs to look cool, we know that, but it can't just look cool. Any of these types of inclusions, they better generate some positive and better business outcomes as well. And, we don't always know how to do that in the premium world. We're not the subject matter experts in that area. So that's just another reason why our partnership with AVIXA is so helpful in figuring those things out. So we'll continue to be publishing content on the topic today and all relevant topics in partnership with AVIXA. So keep an eye out on ALSD.com and all of our channels. And that includes the conference as well, where we've established a specific track for these types of concepts. So friendly reminder, our next early bird registration deadline is coming up November 17th. So get yourself signed up if you're going to be in attendance, and join us in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex next June for some additional content like what you're about to enjoy. So for now, I'll pass the baton off to the capable hands of our moderator for the day, Dan Goldstein, who will introduce the panel and get us started.
Thank you, Jared. Great introduction to this afternoon's, or as you say, this morning's topic, AV in suites and clubs. My name is Dan Goldstein. I'm the CMO of AVIXA, which for those of you who don't know, stands for the Audio Visual and Integrated Experience Association. We are a trade organization and a professional society, a little bit of a hybrid of both. You can join AVIXA either as a company or as an individual. Joining me on the webinar today, an esteemed panel, Kevin Ivey, a project developer, sports and entertainment at Baker Audiovisual, which is one of those companies that is an enterprise member of AVIXA. Joe LeBeau, I hope I've pronounced your surname right, Joe, VP of Ticket Sales and Services at the Carolina Panthers. And last but by no means least, Leslie Lee, Director of Event Strategy and Services at the San Francisco Giants. So we have a number of sports represented, and we have in Kevin, obviously, someone who's on the service provider side of the industry. Before we get into the different case studies that each of our panelists is presenting, a little bit of a plug for AVIXA. Our job is essentially to promote integrated experiences in vertical markets all around the world. Our membership is truly global. We have members in over 80 countries. Total membership is between 55 and 60,000 if you count all the individuals who work for those enterprises. And we're quite unusual in the sense that we represent the entire value chain. So you can join AVIXA as a manufacturer of AV products and services. You can join AVIXA as Baker AV has done, as an integration company or a design firm, and you can join AVIXA as an end user of AV products and services. And in fact, quite a few stadium operators around the world are now members of the association. I'm not currently able to advance the slides, so I don't know whether someone at ALSD can do that and get us moving ahead. So that's us. There you go. One of the verticals, obviously, that we promote is sports and entertainment, and it's interesting. Just kind of picking up on what Jared has said right at the beginning. There was a time, obviously, when a sports stadium was just that, just a stadium for a single sport, and for much of the rest of the time, its doors were, if there was no game on, its doors were closed. And what we're seeing, as I'm sure many of you are seeing, is how these what were very separate vertical markets, sports, theaters, restaurants, corporate spaces, universities, how all these different verticals are kind of meshing together and starting to become much more sophisticated, much more complicated, and really that's where our membership comes in, because our members tend to have, although some do specialize in certain sectors, our members tend to have great expertise in, and not just in designing great technology solutions, but also making sure that those solutions give end users the functionality they need to solve their business challenges and create new business opportunities for them. So without further ado, I'm going to hand us over to Kevin Ivey from Baker AV, who is going to talk about a stadium which has, quite rightly, I think, in my mind, gained a lot of publicity since it opened a couple of years ago, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Dan. I want to challenge everyone today to think about things a little bit differently in how we use AV in suites and clubs. Being a sports fan is always an emotional experience, and our challenge is to capture and maintain that emotion in that suite or club space during any event. We tend to look at technology as a means to do that, and technology is certainly important, but it is only as good as it can enhance that emotional experience of the live game and not displace it. And it must never get in the way of that experience. The most effective way to provide a positive, indelible experience is to deliver the audio and video content the fans expect, when they want it, where they want it, and with the least amount of difficulty. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is home to the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United Football Club. The fan experience of Mercedes-Benz was conceived by Arthur Blank, who was one of the co-founders of the Home Depot. And Mr. Blank's vision for the Benz was to create experiences to thank Atlanta's loyal fans. And his design philosophy was fairly straightforward: deliver the absolute best guest experience and then lower the cost so everyone can enjoy it. And that being said, he also sought to build luxury suites and clubs that are second to none. Now, to put the AV design challenge into perspective, here's the scale of Mercedes-Benz. It's 2 million square feet, or about 186,000 square meters. There's 71,000 seats for Falcons games. That's expandable to 80,000 seats for special events. There are a total of 190 total luxury suites and 100,000 square feet of club space, 7,500 club seats, 2,700 televisions, 1,800 wireless access points, and at the end of the day, over 4,000 miles of integrated fiber optic cable. Now, in addition to designing and supporting all those systems and trying to ensure the quality of service in a facility that size, the original design concept for Mercedes-Benz was delivered in February of 2011, and all of the AV suites would require technologies that would remain relevant and serviceable when it was scheduled to open in August of 2017, about 6.5 years later. So we had our work cut out for us, and going into it, we knew that if the AV systems didn't enhance the game experience, we had failed. But if the AV systems actually detracted from the game experience, we had really failed. Let's see, I'm trying to advance to the next slide. Stand by, please. This is a view from one of the 16 field level suites in each end zone at Mercedes-Benz. To deliver that exceptional fan experience that Mr. Blanks was after, it really came down to three factors. The first was the audio and video content that would be offered to the fans in the luxury spaces and in the stadium. The second was the infrastructure that would support reliable delivery of that content. And third is the ability of the fans in the suites and clubs to access that content and to control it. So let's look at these in order and talk first about the content. Our biggest competitor is arguably a 65-inch 4K television and a surround audio system in someone's own living room or den. So the biggest difference between the luxury suite and that high-end at-home experience is the variety and quality of content available to the luxury suite or club guests versus what they receive at home. So the ability to provide different camera angles, replay channels from the house video systems, all that gives luxury suite occupants a more immediate and a more intimate view of the game. Providing multiple satellite channels, myriad of other games, alternate audio sources such as audio feeds from radio stations or other networks, gives a luxury suite guest a unique and memorable experience that they'll probably want to repeat. And once that content is determined, we've got to look at how the content is delivered reliably to the fans when and where they want it. This is a view from one of the 100 level suites looking out into the bowl at Mercedes-Benz. So this brings us to the really unsexy part of the entire AV operation. It can either be the strongest or weakest link in the AV signal chain and can have the greatest impact on everybody's experience. But our very best outcome is that no one will even realize it's there. And I'm talking about the infrastructure that carries those thousands of video and audio and control signals throughout the stadium to all the concourses, clubs, suites, restaurants, and concessions. The Benz, as we call it, was the first large venue to employ a fairly new data network topology to achieve that level of content distribution, and that's called a Gigabit Passive Optical Network, or GPON. Mercedes-Benz was the first to use GPON, and it was employed to conduct those signals reliably across the campus and the facility. GPON networks were originally designed as high bandwidth, high speed multicast networks that were designed for delivering programming streams to homes. And in the Benz, it's used to move the IPTV signals, all the display signals around, and to deliver those reliably. Conducting the audio for the bowl sound reinforcement system and the control signals actually required a separate active Ethernet network to support the unicast messages and to provide the time base that was critical for synchronous audio signals. I want to make sure everyone is clear on that. Now, the prevalence and the bandwidth of a GPON network allows the IPTV system to service some pretty unique seating locations like the loge suites that we see in this particular photograph. The loge suites are positioned at each corner of the field, just adjacent to the goal lines. Also, having the IPTV endpoints in place on the network allows the easy replacement of video displays and television displays. That's one of the things that's clearest in terms of being updated periodically to make sure that the television resolution, the features, meet or exceed the latest consumer offerings. Now, Baker Audiovisual integrated the bowl audio systems, the team locker rooms, the interview studios, the luxury suites, and the club's AV, and the broadcast systems cable infrastructure. IBM handled the data network design and teamed with Baker and others to realize the AV coverage of the facility. Now, the GPON network also supports 1,800 wireless access points within the stadium, and that ensures streaming of content to mobile devices and to host Mr. Blank's mobile application. One of the visions that Arthur Blank had was to create an application that would provide a solid and satisfying fan experience from the time a ticket holder left their home till the time that they finished the game. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium app provides fans access to different information, assistance in planning their transportation, their dining, entertainment, all while at the game. There are live interactive maps to help you find, that helps fans find the luxury suites, a restaurant they want to try, or any other amenities within the stadium. And fans can buy tickets for future events or schedule stadium tours via the app as well. One of the neat features, if you see here on the far right, is a chat bot with an avatar that allows users to ask Arthur for help. And there's an AI engine that actually handles those questions and requests. And then at the very end of the game, the app allows users to rate their experience. So that feedback is used to constantly improve fan experience. This is a view from within the Delta Sky 360 Club space. And we're going to talk about the third factor, and that is control of the content streams. Control is provided directly to users in the case of each of the luxury suites, and only to authorized staff in the case of the larger club areas. The biggest factor for a successful AV system is not necessarily the size or resolution of the television, or the number of televisions, or the number of video sources, or the quality of the audio. Those things are important, but the biggest factor is having the suite really exceed the guest experience expectations, and that begins with the ability of the fans to easily select the content that they want to see and hear within the luxury suite. So the question becomes, do you want to offer something familiar or something new? Now, the very familiar and time-proven method is the remote control. And providing a remote that's intuitive and easy to learn is important, because nothing ruins the experience like a family member losing their temper. But even if they don't lose their temper, there's a chance they could lose the remote. So let's talk about a new way to do that. And that's to provide a touch panel with a simple but elegant interface that limits what the user can access, but actually provides enough variety and flexibility to make the AV system unique in their experience. That does three important things. First of all, it can instruct the end user in its operation. It's intuitive and easy to learn in terms of an interface. It tailors the experience to the luxury suite users. And finally, it brands that experience as part of the team in the stadium. And what you want to do is send those fans home wishing that they had that type of control in their own living room, and that they'll share that experience with all of their friends. And control is also one of the fundamental differences between the individual luxury suites and the club lounge areas, mainly due to the size of the spaces and their intended functions. Now, the Delta Sky 360 Club shown here is reserved only for club seat holders in the first 35 rows of the field. Think of this as the ultimate private suite, just under the ultimate seats for the game. This space has its own private bars, its own private concessions, and it's really designed for entertaining important guests or clients, or for special events outside game day. Control of the AV systems is not extended to the users, and the content presented on several monitors in the club provides an uninterrupted visual and oral coverage of the game. Here we're looking at the interior of one of the Harrah's Cherokee casino clubs. The casino clubs are 6,000 square foot dining and event areas, and they can be opened up completely to the game action out in the bowl. They provide direct sight lines to the playing field and to the halo displays in the roof of the bins. There are 20 monitors in each of the spaces, and if the space is being used for a corporate presentation or private function, that content can be input and switched to all of those monitors, and local microphones allow presenters to address the entire club through a common audio zone, and that's all through ceiling speakers in the space. This is an interior view of the AMG Lounge. The AMG Lounge and the SunTrust Club are also bunker suites that allow access along each sideline. These are private clubs with a membership limited to 300 executive member accounts, and include a private VIP entrance for the users. The floor-to-ceiling windows that you see here look out onto the player tunnels, so everybody can get hyped as the team goes to take the field. So to summarize, in designing AV for suites and clubs to enhance and optimize the experience, providing content that exceeds the expectation of the luxury suite user creates that unique and memorable experience. Having sufficient network bandwidth makes sure that you can faithfully and flawlessly deliver the signal. And then finally, keeping the system control and operation simple and convenient for the user is of utmost performance. So with this many systems running concurrently on a terabit data network, how is the quality of experience guaranteed for each game? Well, between the stadium IT staff and dedicated day of game personnel from Baker Audio Visual, Systems are tested regularly, and Baker support assets remain ready to correct any problem that can occur. Baker AV also provides support to the Falcons training facility, the front offices, and the Blank family properties. And keep in mind through all this that this troubleshooting actually began with the design process, where the primary concern remained the fan experience. So never underestimate the value of including the audiovisual systems integrator in the design process early on for budgeting, for best practices, and for their experience in delivering designs like this. Certainly appreciate everyone's attention today. Thank you for joining us. And it is now my pleasure to turn things over to Joe LeBoux. Joe is the Vice President of Ticket Sales and Services for the Carolina Panthers.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. I mean, really just to piggyback on what you said, my perspective with everything here is going to be from a sales and services side, and how we looked at AV. And it was interesting being asked to be on this panel back in the summer. The timing was perfect. We just, as most of you know, came under new ownership last year. We've been looking at our business inside and out, and looking at our facilities inside and out. And one of the things that I feel like we've done a good job of is bringing our AV technology in this particular venue up to speed. So I guess I'll just take everybody through, what we were thinking back in 2014, 15, and 16 as we renovated the stadium, and maybe why we made some decisions, and how maybe that thinking has evolved over the last few years, and has really assisted us from a sales and service side as far as renewals go. See if I can change this too. Sorry. I don't know if somebody from Max or Dan, maybe one of you guys can help. There we go. Perfect. All right, that's a look at our facility. Our stadium, in the grand scheme of things across the National Football League right now, is a bit of a dinosaur. It was built prior to the 1996 season. So as we move into this is our 25th season in the National Football League. This is season 24 at Bank of America Stadium. I will say, walking around the concourses now, I don't think you would believe it was that old. But one of the ways we can trick people is because of our AV. This is a look at one of our suite clubs. We, during the renovations prior to the 2015 season, took a look at our two luxury suite levels, and we wanted to decrease the number of suites. We had over 160 suites up there. We whittled them down to about 151. We took those extra 15 or 16 suites we had prior to 2015 and created some of these suite clubs. And probably most people on the call, most people in venues have got similar spaces. It's a hybrid between a club level and a luxury suite. It's an area where folks have that luxury suite experience, but they don't have to buy 10 to 22 seats. They own 2 seats, 4 seats, etc. And while we were going through this, we asked the same question everyone's asking now, and Kevin alluded to it before. How do we get people out of their office, their den, their living room, 60 to 80 inch televisions, high def, short lines at the bathroom, great concession prices in your refrigerator. One of the things we felt like we could offer was, multiple TVs, great sound system, provide people an environment similar to what they would have at a local bar, or a great place to hang out. The family room's great, but the social aspect of it is not the greatest sometimes. I mean, someone like myself, I've got 3 kids. It's hard to watch games when I've got to look at coloring books and they want to change it to Disney Junior and whatnot. So getting people out to the stadium, getting those games on, getting them in front of fellow fans, clients, friends, family, that was very important to us. Our old suites had 2 TVs, probably very similar to what most of y'all had seen in the past. There was one sort of right above the seats, and then one right in the back. The suite club you can see in this picture right here. There's 3 televisions that you can see. There's 12 total in the space. So a ton of opportunity for us to get people out. You know, we can only control so much in our business. Wins and losses is definitely not one of them on the field. And what we felt, you know, was a deterrent sometimes with the wins and losses is, look, I can't get people out to the stadium. They don't want to see a team that's losing. They may be a Packers fan or they're a Ravens fan. Well, now the answer to that excuse is great. Come out to the ball game. We'll put the Ravens or the Packers game on TV. You can watch that. You can also hang out with us and enjoy a Panthers game. So this is a look at one of our luxury suites now. 3 of the televisions you see out of the 5. There's one that would be behind you standing here, and one to the left as well. So all of our suites now, doesn't matter if it's our smallest, which is a 12-person, they all have a minimum of 5 televisions. Some of the bigger suites have up to 12 TVs in the spaces. But what's important to note is that was the way of thinking we were going through that. Let's give people red zone access. If they want to watch the race, they want to watch the golf tournament, they want to watch other games, like I just said, you know, they'll have that ability. And as we've gone through the last couple of years, we've actually changed our approach in terms of using our televisions to sell. One of the anecdotes I gave over the summer was of a client. I'm just gonna go through a couple of these images of these suites to sort of paint a picture for everybody. We've had a client that was hesitant to purchase a suite back in 2014, and you know, after some negotiations and great salesmanship, obviously we got them to commit to a suite. They went in on the low end. They bought one of those 12-person suites. Their average spend was probably around $90,000 per year, but they, like most people, were very focused on ROI, and they started using their suites to fly in customers of theirs from all over the country, and they would fly folks in based on the opponent we were playing. They would invite them out to the suite, and they would give a presentation, and they would use the ticket as the hook to come to the presentation. In fact, the clients wouldn't even get the ticket until they came to the stadium. Got in 2 hours early, got up to the suite, and you know, they would have us preload one of the televisions in the suite with a slideshow each game, and it was no problem. We thought it was, you know, an easy ask, easy from a fulfillment side, but they were so excited about the turnout. They would host meetings all over the Carolinas, couldn't get the turnout they would get that they got at Panther games. And that relationship is now grown into, they've moved suites 2 different times. In fact, they sit in our former owner's suite now, which is a 36-person suite. There was a boardroom in there. And since they were running these meetings, we felt like that was the obvious choice, the first phone call when that suite opened up. But again, they started at $90,000. They're well north of $300,000 now per year annually. They buy every single event we have here at the stadium. We've customized that suite with a 90-inch touchscreen TV. We bought furniture for them to host these meetings. So, you know, our sales pitch now with new clients, new prospective clients, and even with renewals, is look, use your TV, use your space to grow your business. You know, and we give the example of this story. We want to have people sort of think outside the box, outside of just having access to five different games at one time or a look at the scoreboard. So, you know, that is going to be playing into, you know, designs we have moving forward, whether, you know, it's upgrading our current facility or, you know, maybe moving into a new facility down the road. And I think, you know, Kevin pointed it out. I think working with someone like him or some folks that have knowledge of, you know, other buildings and can help you maximize that AV technology, not only from, again, an entertainment perspective, but also how it increases flexibility in the space, having meetings in the space, using the venue on non-game days. That's a big ticket item. That's another revenue generator for us is non-game days, and we're growing that side of the business right now. We feel like we're in a good spot with where we are because of the attention we put into the AV from the outset. Just more look at sort of the TVs. This is a look at one of our club level spaces. This renovation happened after the suites. We went back out and did the club level, and these are spaces that we do use on non-game days and host myriad of events. We've had proms, we've had business meetings, we've had ESPN First Take was here when the NBA All-Star Game was here last year in Charlotte. So having this flexibility and being able to be sort of dynamic in terms of what we can do messaging wise, whether it's someone using it for the first time or if it's you can see Bojangles in this picture, one of our corporate partners, being able to increase their brand awareness around the venue has been fantastic. So again, it's really helped out from the sales side and the service side. And this is another look at one of our local Charlotte Business Alliance had a great meeting here. So, with that said, I want to turn it over to Leslie Lee from the San Francisco Giants, and she can also provide some great perspective on terms of the diversity of their ballpark out there in the Bay Area.
Thanks, Joe. So I'm actually going to be talking about one particular suite or space today. It's called the Cloud Club, and it was actually just opened this year for the 2019 season here at Oracle Park. And really the point of it is it welcomes all the people who are looking for a unique space to enjoy the game. And we really wanted this to be a place to host guests and to help grow connections and relationships. So it's actually a little bit of a different sales model for us. But the other thing that's actually unique about this particular space is it's a total of 150 person capacity, but there's actually only 60 seats on the balcony. And so the other remaining 90 seats or tickets are actually on the inside of the space. So it was really important for us to make sure that the product and the experience on the inside of the space was just as interesting as it is to be sitting in a seat watching the entire game. So sorry, I'm also having a little trouble switching slides here. Okay, great. So what's super interesting about this space, it's an ever-changing immersive space, and we really wanted this to be, and I'm sure you've heard sort of this buzzword a lot, but we really wanted it to be experiential. So what this space is instead of highlighting San Francisco Giants baseball, this is more highlighting a living San Francisco. So the programming is adaptive. It celebrates some of San Francisco's unique neighborhoods, arts, culture, food, which is obviously really important here in San Francisco. And so what we've done is actually there's a rotating buffet, and we have different themes within this space. And each of the food and beverage menus is actually tailored to whatever that particular theme is for that particular month. So it's a really, that way, if you're coming to, there's a lot of games in baseball, and so people are here on a regular basis. So this actually gives people the opportunity to experience something different within the same space, even if they're coming on a really regular basis. So what we've done is we've actually made it so that your experience into the Cloud Club is immediately when you come off that elevator. So when you come to the space, there's a customizable entry screen. So we actually get to change that out depending on what the theme is. And then you really sort of step in from the regular suite lobby, and then you really step into the Cloud Club. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we had a base impact that was really, understated but impactful, so that people sort of knew that you were in a unique space within the building. So what we really had to do is find a balance between static imagery and interactive content. So you'll see this photo here sort of at the top of the screen. That's actually our interactive LED wall. And so that will change and is an animated screen. There's actually another screen to your right, which you can't see in this photo, that play off of each other. So it's not a television, there's no sound or anything like that, but it gives you, that's right when you walk into the space. So it gives you an idea of what the theme is and really sort of helps you transport into what you're going to see in the rest of the space. And so another piece of that is really finding a balance between static imagery and interactive content, like I mentioned, but we also want people to know what they're looking at. So as you can see on the left side of the screen, there's a static image there with a caption underneath, and that really is telling people what they're looking at and what they can get to experience in the rest of the space. And the other part of balancing the static imagery with interactive content is that we want people to enjoy the baseball game. So there is a live product taking place out on the field, and so we want to make sure that people are enjoying all of the amenities on the inside, but also being able to watch the game. So there are a number of just regular televisions in the space that are broadcasting both our game as well as other games, as well as the interactive LED screen that you saw a few minutes ago. So we also have some sort of old school, ideas and branding in the space as well. So if you were in a space, you would see that we actually have branded board games and some other things that, while not necessarily AV related, are A, unique to the space, and B, give all of those 90 people on the inside something to participate in if they're not sitting and watching the game 100% of the time. The other thing is about this space and having all of these unique features is that it gives companies on a non-game day the opportunity to brand their space for their company. But what it also does is, because there are so many different elements that are so easily changed out, whether it's the static imagery as well as the AV, they can actually come to the space and rent the space multiple times and actually have a different experience. So if one company wants to host clients on a particular non-game day, they can actually come in and brand the space for that particular client, and then they can come back the following month for a different client or for their own employees or something else, and have while the space itself is the same, they can actually brand it and have the experience be different each time that they come to the ballpark. And then you can like I said, you can do branding on the televisions. We actually have some color changing LED lights and panels. So if the company has a red logo, we can actually use some red lighting. And then we actually have different speaker zones throughout the space as well. So if you were to come on a Giants baseball game, we actually in one speaker area actually have music that is being played in the background that goes with the theme instead of baseball game audio. Now there is also a section for baseball game audio if you're on the inside and you want to make sure obviously you're still feeling a part of the game. So what's nice is we can actually segment that out. You can have one thing in the hallway as you're entering, then when you enter the space you can have a different set of music or audio, so that there's really endless possibilities to what you can do, and you can really make the space your own. Another sort of bonus to this space that we actually had this year was that this space is actually in the corner of our suite level, and it is right next to our new 4K scoreboard. So our new scoreboard is very large, and Cloud Club guests are able to actually really feel like they're part of the game, even though they're relatively far from home plate. So this space is actually in the corner of our suite level, and it is a bit of a distance from home plate, but with the 4K scoreboard right there, you actually feel like you're in the game. And then unique programming on the scoreboard helps fans really, engage with the game, even if they aren't sitting in their seat watching 100% of the time, which is the idea of why Cloud Club was created like this, and this particular sales model. And the idea is that people are experiencing the game in different ways. So all of the AV that we put in this space is to really experience Giants baseball in a unique way, but also have a unique experience that isn't completely centered around the game as well. So thank you. That's the rundown on Cloud Club.
Well, thank you, everybody. Sorry for the slight delay there. Not quite sure what my computer was doing. Three outstanding projects in my mind that we've just been talking about. Each of which I think is using AV technology in a different way to address different challenges and different set of opportunities. But there are definitely some themes, some common themes around what we've talked about. I'm going to ask each of the panelists a specific question about their projects, and then open it up to kind of generic discussion. And then if time allows, those of you attending the webinar, there is a little questions panel in the control panel on the right-hand side. If you want to type in any questions for any or all panelists, we will attempt to get to those as well. Let's start at the beginning with Kevin, who talked about from Baker AV, who talked about the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. That's obviously a very, very high budget, almost, it seems to me, almost like a money no object type project. But your company works, on a lot of different projects, different scales. What are the differences that you see as you work across different arenas, and do the owners have different approaches? Do they have different things that they're trying to accomplish with their AV deployments?
They typically do, and a lot of times that depends on whether the budget is direct. There is some sponsorship, even of AV experiences in some of the new larger stadia. And then when we look at the arenas are a little bit different in that the pace of play in arenas due to basketball and hockey is typically a little bit faster than it would be, in a baseball or a football stadium. It's a smaller, more intimate space. There are more opportunities to do things like floor and ice projection and those sorts of things. The suites themselves typically have more direct lines of sight. Space can be at a premium, no pun intended. So there's still going to be a good saturation of AV, even out on the concourses, because a lot of times as the social element of a game, it spills out onto the concourse, and more of the facilities are adopting a social space or several social spaces in the concourse spaces. Another big trend we're seeing even in arenas is to open that concourse out onto the bowl, so that you have wider and deeper views of the bowl, even from the concourse space. From an acoustical standpoint, smaller spaces are always a little bit more of a challenge in terms of the overall PA system. The small overall volume can lead to problems as more and more energy is introduced into the room, so you have to pay particular attention to the acoustics and how they're going to be used. And that leads us to really the final and important point. Arenas see typically a wider variety of events, such as concerts, conferences, different functions. So the premium spaces have to be designed to accommodate those different experiences depending on the event.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Some good insight there. There are certainly some common themes, but the nature of the space and the nature of the sport as well, I think, are big influences into what the ultimately the AV design looks like. Joe, let's move on to you. I was very touched by your comment about the stadium, the Bank of America Stadium, being a bit of a dinosaur at 25 years old. I grew up going to see Crystal Palace Football Club in South London. The stadium has been there since 1925. But your point being that AV is a great way of, in contrast, I guess, to what Kevin was talking about in Atlanta, giving the space a modern feel, an up-to-date feel, without necessarily having to spend millions and millions of dollars, making it feel different and look modern and look contemporary. But also, as you said, increasing the flexibility of the space in terms of the clientele, and a key part of that, I guess, is is that ability for people to, which I thought was fascinating, the ability for people to host presentations and actually grow their business using their suite. Is that a model that you envisioned from the beginning, or is it something that just kind of evolved organically over time?
Yeah, it's completely evolved organically. Like you said, we had sort of that one case study, that one client that came in here and said, this is exactly what we are going to do. And, we said, okay, sure. And, since we were involved with that presentation, basically the logistics of getting their clients into the suite each week, we had a very good feel of how well it was going. And again, everyone's got clients that are hesitant to spend money. I mean, everything we do, certainly there's budgets involved. There's when you're dealing with a number of companies, there's buy-in from so many different people. Rarely do you have a client that they're the decision maker. That's it. They sign the contract. They pay the bill. So knowing sort of the hoops this company had to go through to get the thumbs up to actually buy the suite, and then they were able to justify. It was almost like they were working for us. They're like, look, we're justifying this because we're able to measure our ROI. We've got 10 events, so 2 preseason, 8 regular season games. These are clients who are flying in from all over the country, between what they paid for plane tickets, what they're doing with the hotel, what they paid for the tickets to the game, F&B, et cetera. They were coming up, on the positive side, more than what they'd even anticipated. So, sort of copying and pasting that story to other clients that we're trying to get into the space has been huge for us. Again, it's people have been in suites before. It's our job is to say what the benefits are, and of course, getting in front of clients and entertaining, that goes without saying. People know that, but putting that little twist on it and saying, like, look, yes, you can entertain, but you can also give these presentations. And back before some of the tax laws changed, they were able to sort of get around and get some tax breaks from the suite by doing that as well. That's changed, but they're okay with it because, again, their ROI is so big. So we use that now when we're talking to new prospects, but also it's really important that we pitch that to renewals as well. I mean, I think everybody would admit renewing a client is much harder than selling one brand new. You can't really fool someone who's been in your building for X number of years and been to all these events, but maybe giving them this different perspective and different use of their suite and say, look, you got to look beyond the 10 games. Look even beyond the 3 hours that the football game's going on. What are you doing beforehand? What are you doing in the hour and a half post game as well in there? And the AV lends itself to that diversity and that flexibility. So it's been really cool to, again, have that happen organically. And as we move forward and develop new spaces at the stadium, that's the way we're thinking now: is how can this space be used 365 days a year?
Great insight. Thank you, Joe. Leslie, I want to turn to you and the project at Oracle Park in San Francisco, which was a fascinating blend, I thought, between where you've got new technology, but you're using it to showcase cultural themes, quite a lot of nostalgia, Summer of Love, historical, San Francisco, history of themes that are actually nothing to do with sports, but really much more to do with the city and its recent history. That's not an easy balancing act, right? I guess in the way that you've designed the space, you've got all that technology there, which can look, if you're not too careful, it can look very kind of gleaming and modern. What were some of the kind of challenges that you faced when you were designing the space?
Yeah, so what's interesting is, when we set to design the space, we always sort of knew that we wanted this to be more of a celebrating, like we said, sort of a San Francisco history and all of the culture and things like that, versus celebrating specifically Giants baseball. We have several spaces throughout our building that really represent our rich history as a baseball team. So we really wanted this to be unique and different. And so that's why we went more with the San Francisco tie-in rather than specifically Giants baseball. So what's interesting about it is we always knew that there would be some themes, i.e. Summer of Love. Our first theme was the Barbary Coast, which is really sort of the start of San Francisco as a city. That obviously did not have this AV technology during these time periods. So for us trying to figure out a way in order to really represent these themes in an authentic way, we knew that we had to have a lot of that sort of static, old school imagery combined with the modern digital AV piece of it. And so when we go through, and we have, you know, quite the team here who really does a brainstorming session on each of these themes, we really keep all of these pieces in mind. And what does it make sense to show on the interactive LED versus what makes sense to just, you know, print out and put on some of our columns. So we really have a team that thinks about it from a strategic perspective, but it is a challenge sometimes because, like I said, you know, the Barbary Coast with black and white photos and, you know, not HD quality images is sometimes hard to portray in this space. So we have to really sort of dig deep within our resources from where we're sourcing a lot of this from to make sure that it is properly displayed on all of these mediums as well.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And we're a little bit short of time. I've got a couple of questions that have come through on the control panel here, which I'm going to kind of merge into one sort of overarching question just to close us off and give each of you an opportunity to answer this. The future of premium spaces in stadiums and arenas, you know, we know this space is very exciting. It's cutting edge. It's cutting edge in its use of technology. It's cutting edge in terms of how that technology is enabling operators to grow revenue. But what does the future hold? Couple of technologies that have come in through the question board. One is augmented reality. Another one is talking about touch screens in outdoor seating where fans can order food from their seat while still watching the game. Kevin, let's start with you. What new technologies do you see in terms of, you know, growing in adoption and being of business value to stadium operators?
Sure. It's interesting that the question was raised about touch screens because that's exactly what's going on now in the new loge seating. The loge seating is there in the bowl, and typically there's a small tablet screen where you can both follow the action of the game, or you can order food and beverage or souvenirs or fan branded or team branded merchandise. So all that is actually is in practice now in some places, and I think it will become more ubiquitous. I think there are two things. One is, especially for the luxury suite and the club suites, I think the use of a very specialized experience is going to come about through RFID sensing and other transponders, and managed somewhat by artificial intelligence. I can foresee a very specialized personal experience based on guest preferences and behavior profiles that are captured over previous visits, all that managed by AI. Sensors in the suite or club will welcome the guests. They'll know they're there. They'll have their favorite beverage ready. They'll set up their AV systems to their previous preferences and basically have everything, you know, within reach. I think that is just over the horizon in terms of a premium experience that will also obviously demand a premium price. And because the systems are reusable and because they're largely based on an AI model, the cost of doing this actually decreases with each visit until it becomes really kind of negatively exponential, if you will. So it'll pay tremendous dividends for the initial installation of the AV technology and other technologies to support that. The use of VR technology is another thing I see. I think that the esports, the rise in esports will eventually dictate the future live game experience. I can see a time where a premium seat might actually put you onto the field in real time and give you a virtual view of a running back or a quarterback as a linebacker is bearing down on them. You'll get to feel a little bit of that with some haptic feedback from your seat. So all of that, I think, is just over the horizon. And then finally, and Dan, I'm sure you're aware of this, the Sphere that's being built in London will be without PA. Everyone will have their own earbuds. So everyone is treated to their own in-ear monitors versus having a PA. So having your own custom audio stream during the course of a game is just around the corner as well.
Absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how some of these technologies seem very, very futuristic, and yet they're all here right now. Just a question of the application. Joe, what are you seeing? From Charlotte, are there specific new technologies that you're looking at, or are you kind of thinking, well, we just need some more screens so that people can show more presentations and watch different games and different sports?
No, I mean we're always looking for new technology. I mean having that shiny Mercedes-Benz Stadium just down I-85 from here, and we're looking to improve our facility, and we're looking to improve organizationally as well, and that may be a new facility down the road too. So I think that touchscreen technology is great. I think just how we can integrate fan experience through the mobile app and what they're able to do in stadium. I think what Mercedes-Benz Stadium did with, I think Kevin showed the slide with the cartoon Arthur Blank, which I thought was great. But things of that nature, we're looking to improve. I mean, well outside of just screens. The answers I don't have, but it's great having forums like this and being able to go to places like ALSD to learn, and obviously going to new venues to take a look at it. So interested to see what's coming out there. It seems like more and more MLS stadiums are going up here and there, and they seem to be pretty creative in terms of what they have and how they can integrate technology. So we'll probably steal some ideas from them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Finally, Leslie, one last comment from you. And Joe just mentioned creativity and your solution in San Francisco strikes me as being a very, very creative one. What's next for you in terms of creative application of AV technology? What do you see happening in the future? Just to round us off.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, we talk about this idea of coming to a game as an experience that people, now don't want to just necessarily sit in their seat and watch the entirety of a game. So they really want this, everything to be experiential. So I think you'll see a lot of sort of interactive content with that, whether it's a screen, like Kevin said, where it transports you to being into the game, a lot of sort of virtual reality space. I see that as being something, really coming, to light over the next couple of years. And the other thing, along the touchscreens, but everyone these days is sort of used to everything being at their fingertips. And I see the mobile app as a really great opportunity for people to, experience things from their phone. So not even necessarily installing a permanent touchscreen in certain spaces, but being able to do things as they're walking through the concourse and experience it via their cell phones. Because I think, we would all agree that most people are sort of have their face in their phones for a majority of the time. And so I see that being, an opportunity for everyone in the future.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, and thank you also to Joe, and thank you also to Kevin. Thank you to all who've attended the webinar this afternoon. Thank you to ALSD for for organizing it, and I'm hoping that it's been a worthwhile and rewarding use of everybody's time. I certainly found it very, very interesting. I've made about 7.5 pages of notes here for things that I think I can take back to staff here at AVIXA that give us insight into how our technology is being used in ways that are creative and that also make good business sense for the stadiums and arenas of today and tomorrow. So with that, thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of the day.